Lakeland Currents, your public affairs program for North Central Minnesota. Production funding for Lakeland Currents is made possible by Bemidji Regional Airport, serving the region with daily flights to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. More information available at bemidjiairport.org. Closed captioning for Lakeland Currents is sponsored by Nisswa Tax Service, tax preparation for businesses and individuals. Online at nisswatax.com.
Hello again, I'm Jason Edens, your host of Lakeland Currents. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your continued support of Lakeland Public TV. Friends, we are fortunate here in our region to have several outstanding educational institutions that are part of the Minnesota state system. I'm personally proud to call one of those schools an alma mater of mine. Among those Minnesota state schools are community colleges, which are building community and futures one student at a time, like Central Lakes College, based in Brainerd and Staples, Minnesota. It's a privilege to have President of Central Lakes College, Harris Charlier, as my guest today, to share her vision for the future of the college and how the college is adapting to the new normal. President Charlier, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Jason. Thanks so much. It is really great to be with you.
So first and foremost, how's everyone doing? I know that you're dealing with unprecedented challenges, so I'm just curious, how are you, your colleagues, your students? How's everyone holding up?
Well, thanks for asking. We are doing fine. You know, everything at CLC, I know that you know from previous conversations, is about people and relationships. So we spend a lot of time talking to people about how they're doing. I think that the challenges that our students have been facing are beyond anything that most people can imagine, but they continue to be amazingly resilient. They inspire us, and my team has done amazing things, and I couldn't think of a better group to rise to the challenge. And as far as I can tell, they're still doing really, really well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I want to thank you and your colleagues for your adaptive leadership. The fact that you've pivoted from a typical campus environment to distance learning in such a brief period of time is really a project management feat. So I'm curious, how'd you do it? And to what extent did you get guidance from the state office, or is each campus essentially on its own in terms of how they deal with this?
Well, it's a little bit of both. As you know, Jason, we're part of the Minnesota state system, 37 wonderful colleges and universities, and that really allows us to have a support in place that we would not have if we were all by ourselves. So as a system, we decided to make the pivot that you refer to with two very clear foci. One, health and safety, absolutely, and two, helping students to complete. And knowing that we were doing that as a system was kind of the guiding beacon that every college and university followed. But each institution tried to figure out what would work best for our unique students. As you know, the students of CLC require different things than do students in other parts of the state.
Sure.
So that pivot has been really the work of our faculty and staff. They have done massively heavy lifting with our administrators and come up with very creative ways so that students can still get what they need, being safe, but also being able to complete. So it's been an adventure, but I couldn't be prouder.
Nice. So I'm happy to hear that. You graciously accepted this invitation to come on the show in the before times, if you will, before COVID-19. And so I'm eager to talk about your vision for the future, but I am interested in some of the specific challenges that you and your colleagues are experiencing, namely commencement. Obviously, commencement's a very important rite of passage for all of us, or many of us anyhow. And so I'm curious, how are you going to be dealing with that? It's next Thursday, correct?
Right. It is the 13th and the 14th. So, you know, when the COVID emergency began, most colleges and universities across the country knew right away that we could not do commencement in the normal way. But at CLC, we spend so much time talking about celebrating students. We knew we had to do something. So our employees started emailing us and saying, we can do this virtually. And you know, some of my colleagues, they're as creative as they come. So we reached out to students and asked them if they were interested in a virtual commencement and what that might look like. And the results were amazing. They wanted a virtual commencement. So, you know, it will not be its typical form with a bunch of people packed in a room watching students walk across the stage, but it will be celebratory. Every student will have a day in the sun. There'll be lots of whooping and hollering, probably at home. And we will keep our commencement short because that is a tradition at Central Lakes College. So it's going to be very exciting. Students were sent care packages with their cap and their tassel, any honor cords, and their diploma covers, and asked to send back images. All of our faculty and staff have recorded congratulations. There are some reception rooms for live connection, and we'll have some amazing student speakers. So it's going to be great, and we hope the community will join us because this class, every class, but this class really deserves to be celebrated, and it's open to the community. They can go to our website and jump on.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
Yep.
So people can actually participate by participating in the digital commencement,
Correct. Yep.
and that's live.
Part of it's live, part of it's recorded. So
Okay.
we'll have to see. But if they're interested, go to the website, clcmn.edu, and there's a banner right across the top that will link them to graduation and see all the dates and times and give you the live stream. You can also watch it on Facebook. So it's going to be great.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. So in these new times, there have been a lot of silver linings that have emerged. And I'm curious if you can share something with our viewers, something that's put a smile on your face in the past week or two that was unexpected, but certainly related to what we're dealing with.
No, you're right. We spend a lot of time, Jason, talking about how things used to be, but a disruption like this requires that we change, right? So one example of, I think, a little silver lining, although it's very small, is one of the ways that we communicate at CLC is by town hall meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And typically about once a month, I'm on each campus and we just stand in a room and say, what do you want to talk about? Anything that's on your mind. And we always have good turnout, probably 40, 50, 60 people, and have great transparent conversations. Well, when this happened, we knew that we had to continue doing that. But like everyone else, we had to adapt to we use Zoom, right? Or Teams or whatever your organization is. We did it with a little apprehension. Like, how do you have a really good conversation via Zoom? We had 125 people log
Interesting.
and I've had great conversations. We even sang happy birthday to one of our employees. I'll tell you, that was a disaster. I would never recommend, Jason, unmuting 125 people. Don't do it. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. But I think we pulled people into that conversation that normally wouldn't be there. So that's one positive thing that I think will stay with us going forward. We've also seen our students and employees do terrific things. We have a food pantry that is used very frequently, which one might think in the COVID world would just have to shut down. It's not. Our students call, they tell us what they need. Work study students and our director of student life, Eric Hepner, packages it up and those students pick up. So there are some amazingly creative things that I believe will stay with us once the emergency has passed. And it's been very, very exciting. And of course, academically, so many innovative things happening. It's just inspiring.
Well, you're right. We certainly do have to adapt. So you're actually seeing increased participation in the town hall meetings as a result of this.
Yep, we are. It's just an amazing thing. And I think there are lots of examples of that. One other that's coming up tomorrow night is, I'm sure you know about the Central Lakes Community Performing Arts Center that's been housed at CLC for over a decade. We love to have these big performances where we all get together and, they're high energy and exciting. Well, we can't do that right now. So tomorrow night at 7:30, there will be a live performance by Ted Manderfeld that is open and free to anyone, and it will be live. So he will be in the Chalberg Theater. He's this amazing pianist, lots of cameras on him, and it will be through YouTube, and people can communicate. So it'll be very exciting. So I'd encourage your viewers to take a look at our website if they're interested. And people from across the country will be joining us, even my parents in Boston. So again, an innovation.
Well, I was actually going to ask about the theater because I'm a consumer of a lot of the programming, and I was looking forward to seeing Kent Nurburn's movie in mid-March. Yeah. So do you have any idea when we might have the opportunity to do so again, or is it too early?
It's a little too early. The expert is our director, Patrick Spradlin, who I know that you know very well. All the information will be on our website. So for your viewers, clcmn.edu/arts. We're really trying to find ways to deliver these types of theater and artistic performances this summer in a way that's different and abides by social distancing, which we take very seriously. So I can promise you that we will be active, but we'll see how tomorrow night goes. I think that's a
Okay.
little bit of a test run. And I know that Patrick and his team have been thinking very creatively. The arts are critically important to what we do, so they will not be stopping because of this challenge.
Good. Well, I'm happy to hear that. As we both know, the Olympics have been postponed. What does the future of athletics look like at Central Lakes College?
If I only had a crystal ball, I've got it right here. I wish I did. So, just as arts are critically important to us, so are our amazing athletic programs. So typically in the fall, we have volleyball and football, and we are part of the Minnesota College Athletic Conference and the NJCAA. Really, the decision about athletics will be out of our hands, and that conference and the National Association are working on that right now. There are lots of conversations. We want to be able to have athletes back on campus. There's no question. I want you to know that, Jason, but we won't compromise health and safety. Of course, we can't. So lots of conversations are happening that allow us to be nimble. Do we need to shorten seasons? Do we need to move typically fall sports into spring? They're having those conversations. The good news is that it's not Central Lakes College alone. It's
Hmm.
a lot of minds that are far smarter than mine, trying to figure out what we can do for sport and honor that promise to students, which is so important to the fiber of CLC. So we'll have to see. I think the decision will be made in June, though, and that's important because our students are making plans and we want them to come to Central Lakes College.
At that same time, will you also be making a decision about whether or not there'll be in-person school next year? Is that the appropriate nomenclature?
Well, sort of. I will tell you this, we know right now that we are planning to have the full complement of courses, programs, and delivery modes in the fall. As you know, Jason, we have a wide range of programs and a wide range of student learners that need lots of different ways to connect with content. So the easy way would be to say we're going online. I don't, that's not the right thing to do to live up to our promise to students. So we will be offering and scheduling the full range of programs and then also making sure that anything face to face will have extensive social distancing so it won't look the same. But we know that students need to put their hands on things in our shops, in
Hmm.
our labs, our technical students in particular, and to say that we wouldn't do that will be letting them down. So we are ready to do it, full range of programs and activities, but we'll also be ready to, as you said, pivot if we need to when we find out what the fall brings to us. So the decision has been made. We are preparing, and students can count on us to have the things there that they're hoping are there, and we will adapt as need be.
Well, that's reassuring. So there are obviously logistical challenges. There are also potentially some financial challenges. The state now, I believe, is facing a $2.5 billion deficit as a result of COVID. And I'm curious, is that going to affect Central Lakes College?
Well, it certainly could. As you know, we're very privileged to be partially supported by the state of Minnesota, and our legislators are working so hard to meet the needs across the state. I appreciate that work tremendously. But certainly, when the state's resources are limited, that affects those of us who depend on that. So we'll be watching. The other thing that really depends, that influences our budget, is our enrollment. So that's something that really colleges and universities across the country are watching. We're working very hard to tell students, come to us in the fall. We promise you that you will have the experience that you're proud of. So we're going to work on that as well. So certainly the costs associated with COVID, Jason, are deep and wide. There is no question about it. But I'm very confident that we can navigate those. The college is well positioned. It's going to be a tough road, but we're going to keep our focus on what we know to be most important, and that is really building the futures of our students. It's all about students. And while we're going to hold back on some expenditures and might not quite post positions as quickly as we could have, we'll be very conservative, but our goal will be to keep living up to the promise that we've made to students in our community. So,
Well, I'm happy to hear that as well. I'm curious, do you have a network of peers that lead other institutions in the state, and are you getting together with that cohort and learning how different people are grappling with this at their campuses?
What you just described is one of the best parts of being part of a system. And you probably know that of the 1,100 or so community colleges across the country, not all are part of systems. So we're very, very fortunate to have this network of 37 colleges and universities. So every month, I am privileged to get together with colleagues who are grappling with the exact same issues and share best practices, share frustrations and worries, and
Mm.
how together we're rising to those challenges. So I look forward to that every month. We just got together earlier this week and we get together formally, but we also have kind of informal groups where we're there to support each other through the challenge. And I think it's really one of the powers of Minnesota State. I can assure everyone listening that every one of those organizations is outstanding stewards of state resources and they care so much about students. It's really a privilege to be part of the system.
So it's my understanding, President Charlier, that you've been the president of Central Lakes College for 4 full years now. Is that correct?
I'm finishing my fourth year, which is kind of
Finish.
creepy to think about.
So as you finish your fourth year, can you tell us what's different at Central Lakes College as a result of your leadership?
Oh, that's a tough question, Jason. You know that. Well, what I can tell you happens at Central Lakes College now, but in a lot of ways it always has. There's this clear understanding of why we do our work, this deep passion for students and for people that I'm sure was at the college long before I got there. But we've worked very hard to build a culture where everybody feels connected, supported, and valued. So that's been a real focus of ours. And part of it is so that our employees who work unbelievably hard have that support. But the other part of it is we want students to walk in the door and feel like it's a place that they belong, no matter their experience with education, their background, their challenge. We want them to feel what we call this culture of caring. And now our challenge has been how do you get people to feel that remotely or in this kind of video opportunity? So we've been working really hard on that, and I think that's pretty unique, and we're awfully proud of it. But it's really the 300 people I get to work with that make that happen, not me.
Well, let's talk about your vision for the future. 10 years from now, for example, when you look back, what's something that you'll be proud of having done over that time period? So, what do you see? How do you see Central Lakes College changing and evolving over the course of the next 10 years?
Well, so we just finished up a new strategic plan, and I know your viewers do not want to hear the details of our plan, but I will promise them it's on the website if they ever need a little bit of light reading material. But we asked the question, we take seriously this mission of we build futures. And I say if you walked around our campus, once we can all be back there, and you ask people, what's your mission? They know and they feel it. So we asked the question, if that's our promise, what do we have to achieve over the next 5+ years? And we decided there were three things that we had to do. We want people to look at CLC and say, that is a place that inspires learning, meaning we don't just provide an opportunity, we really turn students on to education. That happens in those amazing technical programs that I was talking to you about, which is why we need to get students back in the labs and shops to put their hands on things in a safe way. It happens when students do internships and do research projects and do community service. I can't tell you how much that inspiration is alive and well. And what we want in 10 years is someone to look back and people to say that place inspires students. That's what we want. We also want people to look back at us in 10 years and say, wow, they are innovative. And, in higher education, we use that word a lot, as you know, but we don't move very quickly. If you look at education as a whole, we want people to say, wow, they innovate, they change, they try new things, they take risks. And this is pushing us to try things differently. And I know you'll look back and see new programs. I know you will look back and see new ways of communicating with students. I think you will see us doing things to reach students and help them be successful that are very unique. So innovation. And then finally, we want people to know that we transform lives. So these three pillars, innovation, inspiring learning, and transforming lives. We have to make sure that every single student can be successful. Everyone, no matter their background, no matter their experience with college, no matter what population they're from. And we are holding ourselves accountable to transforming lives by looking at graduation rates, retention rates of every student, including students of color, those who are low income, those who are first generation. We have to be the institution that in this area people look to say, yes, they care about every single student. So that's our vision. And I am absolutely confident that we will get there. We've got the right group of people to do it. We're part of a system that believes absolutely in equity and student achievement. And we're really privileged to do the work.
Now, those three pillars, are those system-wide or are they specific to Central Lakes College?
Those are specific to Central Lakes College. And then system-wide, there is a strategic kind of direction around equity, around this idea that the state needs every group of students to succeed. So, historically, higher education has looked at things like completion and retention, and you know that, but we tend to average things. We just look at the average retention of students, which is great, but it masks a lot of problems. When we look at the achievement of students of color or American Indian students, they don't achieve at the same rate as Caucasian students, and we have to fix it, right? When we look at first-gen students, they don't achieve at the same rate as students who have two parents who have gone to college. It's not okay. We have to fix it. So that commitment is system-wide. How we approach it is unique to Central Lakes College.
I'd actually like to learn more about that. We talked a little bit about the achievement gap in Minnesota on the program, and I'm curious, how does that affect your work at the college? I guess I wasn't as aware of the fact that the achievement gap has markers in higher education as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about how Central Lakes College is trying to address the achievement gap?
Sure. I will tell you, too, that the strategic direction that I mentioned that's system-wide is brand new. It's called Equity 2030, which means that by the year 2030, we will eliminate system-wide all educational equity gaps, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a long-term plan, and we are early in it. But some of the things that we're doing at CLC is pulling apart our data to find what's hidden, as I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example. We're really fortunate to have a new group of academic coaches at CLC funded by a grant, so no state dollars. And those coaches are directly working with students from marginalized populations. So specifically students of color, American Indian students, low-income students, and first-generation college students. Our goal is that every student that walks in the door will have a person helping them to navigate. Because the truth is that part of the problem is that we use in higher education lots of language and it's confusing. You don't know who to ask, how do I do my FAFSA, what's a credit. These things are complicated if it's not part of how you've grown up. So they have unique, dedicated coaches. And that's just one example of one of the things that we're doing. We also have emergency funds available for all students. So as they hit a bump in the road, and they will, there are not only people, but financial resources to help them. And that's thanks to the CLC Foundation. So those are just a couple of examples of how we're setting very specific goals about how to close those achievement gaps and holding ourselves accountable to do just that.
It seems like there's a lot of support that comes from being a part of a system, as you say, but it also sounds like you have a lot of autonomy as a leader and you can differentiate yourself from some of your peers that are also part of the same system. Is that correct? Or?
Absolutely true. I mean, as a system, we believe in outstanding education and student success and this commitment to equity. But if you looked at our institutions across the system, and I think any one of my colleagues would say this, we have some that are rural and some that are urban. We have some that are committed only to technical education, some to transfer, some like CLC that do both. So the needs of our students are very different across the system. So we have this great system level support and voice, but I'm very pleased to have the autonomy to figure out what makes sense locally. We need that autonomy, and it's really a pleasure to work in that kind of environment. The work is hard, you know that, right? We all are in these trying to do hard work, but it's made a whole lot easier when you've got the support of a system and a really great group of people locally bearing that burden. So we're lucky.
So historically, during an economic downturn, community colleges sometimes see an increase in enrollment. Are you expecting to see that in the coming years?
That comes back to that crystal ball, Jason. So you are right that it is typical that our enrollment across the nation goes up as the economy has a downturn. We will see. Our hope is that at CLC, students come to us for two reasons. One is because they are interested in a four-year degree and they come to us for liberal arts and transfer. And the second half is just as important. Students come to us for a particular skill. They want to be auto mechanics or nurses or videographers or diesel mechanics or heavy equipment operators, and they want to go right into the field. Those jobs in particular, we need right now, and we will certainly need after COVID. So as the economy gets started again, I think the demand for all of those jobs will just go up. What we have to do is make sure students know that we are ready to provide them both with online learning and face-to-face learning, which is really challenging
Mm.
because our students face lots of challenges. They're not going to come to us unless they know that they can get the experience that they need. So we may see that. However, this current situation, if you ask many of my colleagues across the country, unlike previous economic downturns, there is this real sense of uncertainty, hesitation, and this sense that people may not enroll in college. We hope they do. We hope they take
Mm.
a chance on us. But that level of uncertainty is not something that we've seen in the past. So we'll have to see what that pattern bears out. But we hope that they come to us to help meet their dreams. That's what we want.
Well, thanks for your candor. I just have two final questions. We're running out of time. But as you said, Central Lakes College is fortunate to have the support of the state of Minnesota. So I'm curious, if you had a magic wand and could walk into the Minnesota legislature, what would you ask for?
Oh, I'd ask for what we always ask for. That's the truth. We and every one of our legislative partners knows the work we do. I would tell them the reason we do this work is for students in our community. That's what we always tell them, and they know it. I would thank them for their support, for which we are very, very grateful. And I would tell them that we as an institution are extremely lean. We've gone through many, many budget cuts over the years. They know that as well. And that to the best of their ability, their support, we commit that it will go directly to serving students. And we know for every dollar that's invested in Minnesota State, it comes back about 12 times into the economy. I would remind them of all those things. But the truth is, they know them. They are working so hard in a very difficult situation to balance lots of needs. I don't envy the work of our legislators, but I certainly am very grateful for it.
Thank you so much, President Charlier, for your adaptive leadership. Thank you to your colleagues and your students, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Jason. We wish you very, very well. Appreciate you
Thank
having
you.
me on.
And thank all of you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time. Stay strong, stay safe, be kind, and be well.